Welcome to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn from networking and leadership consultant, speaker, startup advisor, and journalist Adam Marx. Adam is the founder of the 0 to 1 Networker. He draws on more than a decade of experience in the music and startup tech industries to teach others how to cultivate powerful relationships using strategies of patience, consistency, authenticity, and value creation. Adam shares how his background in music journalism helped him fall into the world of networking, where he had to build relationships with both artists and other industry professionals. He also introduces his 300 Club concept, explaining how a small group of key voices can drive conversations and create lasting impact. We'll also discuss overcoming imposter syndrome, staying engaged in your community, and how networking is about much more than just collecting business cards. Stay tuned to hear how you can build relational capital and why it's so much more important than followers or views. Oh, and you may just get to hear the story behind Adam's signature orange sunglasses and my red jacket. Enjoy. Adam Marx, welcome to Be the Change Georgia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm on my second cup of coffee, so we're improving.
Me too, actually. So the day is off to a roaring start. I actually have some good B Corp coffee too from Cafe Campesino down in Americus, Georgia, and then I was at our other B Corp coffee roaster a couple weeks ago, so I have some Thrive coffee to drink next. So staying caffeinated. So, but I'm excited to finally get you on, man. From meeting. Let's see, we met at Venture Atlanta. I think we knew of each other, but we formally met and actually had a conversation. And went, I think we like each other. It was like stepbrothers. Did we just become best friends? But yeah, that was Venture Atlanta.
Yeah, it was Venture Atlanta. I think that we had run across each other like on LinkedIn a number of times, and then it was Venture Atlanta. I think day one.
It's funny, yeah. We probably passed each other, and you were like, "Who's that guy with like this lame red jacket?" And I'm like, "Who's the guy with the orange sunglasses?"
It's so funny because now I have people ask me about the orange sunglasses thing, and I'm like, look, this is an exercise in accidental branding. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, the story behind the orange sunglasses is really, really clear. I was in college. I was trying to get into the startup world. I was up in Boston. There was like a startup event. I think it may have even been like a TechCrunch type of event. I don't know if it was actually affiliated with TechCrunch, but there's people with like tables and talking about their companies and giving out swag, and everyone's giving out like the cheapest swag they can, it's cheaper than sunglasses. And I just wore those sunglasses for years. Actually, I had two pairs. I retired like the first one, I don't know, I think it broke. And the second one is what everyone knows. And it was just a function of, all right, like these are good enough. I'm not going to go be a real adult and like actually go pay real money for sunglasses. And then it got to be the point where it was like, oh, I actually am finding that people are because it was in my Twitter picture and in my LinkedIn picture for a long time, and so people would be like, oh, right, from Twitter with the orange sunglasses, or from LinkedIn with the orange sunglasses, like you're the orange sunglasses guy. And it was like, okay, I guess this is my brand now.
I got mine just for the TED Talk. Like my red jacket was just TED Talk, and it matched perfectly to the red dot. And sorry, I don't want to Anger any actual TED talkers, my TEDx. So, but it matched everything so well. And then I just kept wearing it, and I literally just booked a keynote, and they heard me speak. They forgot my name, and they had to Google B Corp Red Jacket. They found me
Oh, that's
because I
great.
make jokes on LinkedIn all the time.
One of the first, when my girlfriend and I started dating, one of the first like gifts she got me was a pair of like new orange sunglasses. And she's like, okay, these are your driving sunglasses because the ones you're wearing are beat to hell and you actually can't see through them. So these are only for when we're driving because I'd like to feel safe. And I'm like, that's fair.
Well, it's funny too because you mentioned like trying to get in the startup world, and like it is hard to stand out. But you ended up starting in like the music industry, so I kind of want to like I don't know how many people know that. I kind of want to unpack that story. Like you had a whole career, your first career as a music journalist. Like, yeah, how did it prep you for like everything? Like, how did it like? I mean, because now you're like the networking guy. Everybody knows you as like the guy, the networking expert. But like, how did you get into music journalism, and how did that like launch you into this next phase of your career?
Well, you know, it's interesting because at the time it really, um, I didn't know that it was like networking. So actually, before I was in like music journalism, like I did spend almost like a decade and change in the music world in some capacity. I did the band thing for like a hot minute in high school. I was I spent a year taking a gap year, and I kind of fell into doing music journalism because this was like the height. '09 was like the height of the recession. You know, people with PhDs were having a hard time getting jobs. You know, so I started writing like music reviews just to have something to do during the day because you anyone who's ever been in the job search market, like you can't do that stuff like 24 hours a day. Like you burn out so quickly. You need to have something that you enjoy, something that's fun. um, and so I was writing music reviews, and I pretty quickly moved from writing like reviews of albums from like well-known artists like Green Day or Hailstorm, or like really mainstream successful artists at the time, to writing music reviews on independent artists. And I that's really how I started building that network. Was like I would spend a lot of time on this is like on like Pure Volume, on Bandcamp, like on like old school, like a lot on Pure Volume. Remember, anyone who remembers Pure Volume? I'd spend an enormous amount of time on these independently focused platforms, listening to material and really trying to understand. And then I'd write reviews and then I'd send them to people and be like, hey, look, I really dig your stuff, and I wrote a little review. And if you're in that industry, like you understand people are so thrilled to have like any sort of real feedback that isn't like, oh, this is shit, that they'll like repost it and they'll share it. And it was really, I only had two rules for myself. The first was, because I'm a writer at my core, if I'm writing a review of something, I want the person reading it to really be able to hear it as best as they can. So like I want it to be, you know, in depth, not like three sentences of, oh, this is worth your time or this is not worth your time. And then my other rule for myself, and I did get a lot of flack for this. Um, I just don't do negative reviews. It's just not my deal. It's not what I want to be in. As far as I'm concerned, music is art, and all art is subjective. And if I'm not into your music, that's okay. Like I'm just not going to write a review, but I'm not going to go out of my way to tear it apart. Um, it's just not what I want to be in. And so I had people who were like, "Oh, that's not a real journalist, not a real whatever, whatever." Maybe so, but that's just not how I wanted to build that set of relationships. Um, the funny thing about it is, people respect someone who understands that music is art. Like some people will like your music, some people will not like your music, and that's okay. Like I don't have to like your music to respect you as a creator. And that started building that reputation kind of behind the scenes as like a bridge builder. um, and so I'll kind of condense a lot of the story. When I went to school, when I went to college, I was running a radio show at Brandeis University for anyone who's familiar with it. Um, I was doing an independent music, like a 2 hour block independent music hour. And I would email artists and be like, "Hey, listen, I have you on my list for playlist for this week. Like, send it out." And it pretty quickly got to the point where like we were bottoming out the bandwidth. Like I had artists who were emailing me saying like it says link broken, and I would look on my end, it's like too many people trying to listen, which was, I mean, that's great. Like that's awesome to get that sort of notification. Um, and so then I would be the person showing up at shows. I joke that I've been in more press kits for artists than I've ever been on like 30 under 30 lists or 40 under 40 lists. Um, I've had numerous artists use like my like whatever my cell phone pictures as their like Facebook profile pictures or as their like in their AP. There's one artist, this is 10 years ago at this point, probably more. She gave me 3 full pages in her actual press kit. It was crazy. Like anyone who's familiar with music knows like a blurb will do it, like a little snippet. She like had given me like the full review of both her albums and like the background, like my bio page, and it just was like a whoa, this is kind of cool. Um, I talked my way into press access at Warped Tour in 2012 for the Atlanta date. Um, it was a lot of fun when you have relationships. What you learn is, and we'll talk more about this, it's not about the free stuff. It's about the underlying message of someone saying, you create so much value. I want you to be here in my network. Okay. And so I'll condense the rest of it is I graduated, I ran a music company for a while, music tech company. Then that closed in 2017, I believe. And I was kind of casting about. And I started doing music tech journalism for Mattermark, for Crunchbase, for Startup Grind, really kind of assessing like the landscape and looking at like Spotify's numbers or SoundCloud's numbers. Um, and then that's kind of like I've had a whole career in the music world. That's really where I learned how to build relationships with a demographic of people who unfortunately are used to waiting for that other shoe to drop. So it is absolutely critical that you build trust, that you create value, that you are consistent in maintaining that value. That's really where I learned how to do it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and I'm glad you said that too, because you think about the people um that you look fondly upon in your network, and it's always the people who are abundantly giving, and it doesn't have to be time. It's not resources. It's giving in like, who can I connect you to? How can I add value to your life? And I mean, you're one of those people, like Joey Womack's one of those people. Like, I think of like, the Kenji Kiramoto, some of the other people we've had on this podcast, Lavanya Jones. Like, it's people who just are like genuinely interested in like helping you, and it doesn't matter if you're super established or if you're just getting started. It's that, and it draws people to them like moths to a flame, because it's like, A, I know people, but B, if I can build a relationship with you and you start to trust me and believe in whatever it is I'm trying to do, and you're willing to open a door for me, now I will run through walls for you for that favor. So it's like a winning recipe. And I think too many people, and I know we'll get into this, I don't want to steal your thunder, people go into networking thinking of like, what can I get out of this meeting with Adam? And it's like, that's not it at all. So I'll stop there because I don't want to steal your this is your podcast.
No. I'm glad that you backed up into that concept from a couple of angles. The first is, you know, Lavanya and Joey, and like we know a lot of the same people, and it falls under a concept that I've kind of developed over time. I mean, that I've been working on this book for a while, and probably needs to be pared down because or made into numerous books because there's so much material. I'm kind of in that okay, how do I publish this in the right way kind of process. But one of the concepts that I have, and it may have to survive to the second book, is called the 300 Club. And it's just a concept that seemed to develop as I was in like the tech Twitter space, before everything changed. And we're not going to get into that. But it just seemed, as I looked around at the communities I was in, online, offline, music, tech Twitter, fine art, um, local business, local leadership, whatever you want to be, um, there tend to be 300 to 400 voices that are driving that conversation. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I took a straw poll, like I did. It just seemed to be that it's kind of like that, and it also sounded good in a tweet. But and the thing about it is, it's a revolving door of voices. There are people who, you know, move on to other projects, or they get busy with family life, and new people are coming up. But there's always those people there who seem to be showing up and driving that conversation. And it doesn't matter if they have 100,000 followers or 100 followers. That's why follower count is kind of deceptive, because if you have, let's say, 100 followers, but you are heavily connected with two, three, four of those people in that upper echelon of the network, really driving that dialogue, you are in the door. You are having that conversation. You're in the fabric of that community that's really setting the tone for what are the priorities, what are we talking about, what are the what are the goals, what are the collaborations that are happening, and that is so much more important than how many followers do I have. Am I going viral? Like I've gone viral on LinkedIn. It's a lot of fun. I was going viral on LinkedIn in 2020. I would say every other day. I was doing, if I did 50 or 70 or 100,000 views on a post, it was a slow day. It was kind of crazy. I did like 1.8 million views over like a series of 13 or 14 posts. But you know what happens? The algorithms change, right? And now I'm doing, like, if I do like 1,000 views on a post, it's an amazing week now because algorithms change. But consistency in creating value for people in the network, in the community, that continues to pay dividends over and over and over and over. And I mean, we can talk more about that, but I really want people to understand, like, there is a significant difference between, okay, you have a lot of views or you have a lot of followers versus you have a lot of clout. There's a significant difference there.
Well, and it's also too. It's like I won't steal the term the Atlanta way, but like the thing that I've started to put my finger on in Atlanta is this unique ability of like relational capital matters, and it's not like, oh, like you want to be friends with me because I can introduce you to insert name here. It's because that's not it. But there's a relational capital in Atlanta that matters, where it's like there's something to be said of like this city isn't waiting for you to, like, they're not gatekeeping based on your checkbook. Like, oh, what can you bring to the table? I mean, don't get me wrong, they love if you can invest in their company or donate to their nonprofit, but there's also something that matters, like they know you're a really good person also doing the work. People are attracted to you because you're a really good person doing the work, and they want you in the room for that simple reason of like, it's not that you're like some sort of weird Atlanta influencer. It's just that there's this like respect here for people that are willing to show up, willing to do the work, willing to, like I think of some of the, the random emails where I'm like, okay, I have one email in my box that says, and it's like 3 introductions from the day from whoever I met and said I'd introduce them to. And, I might hit send at 11:37 p.m. But I want to make sure I get those introductions out and make the, where they make sense, because I know that there's value I'm putting out into the universe. And it's a good way usually to end your day too, because it makes you feel good. You go to bed. But there's something about Atlanta where that matters more than other cities I've lived in. So I'm curious to pick your brain on that, since you've also lived in a bunch of different places. Like, what is it that makes this city so special when it comes to relationship building and relational capital?
Well, it's so interesting. After I graduated, I came back to Atlanta. A lot of it was financially oriented because, Boston's expensive, San Francisco's expensive, New York is expensive. So, when I came back to Atlanta, I started doing something. I didn't realize what I was doing, and it's something I now really, really encourage clients to do, and I teach people how to do it. And so I started thinking, okay, if I'm building this company, and my co-founders moved down from Massachusetts for a while, and we're building this company. I'm going to start prepping the ground for California or for New York, right? I'm going to start interacting with not just artists, but like tech journalists writing a tech crunch or recode. I'm going to start interacting with investors who may have introductions or may be interested or start creating value. And what I was really doing was starting to prep the ground for those relationships. In my mind, it was like, okay, if they kind of know who I am already, then maybe I can get an invite to like a dinner or something. Not like, oh, they'll just give me free money, but maybe I can get some kind of an introduction, or a meeting on the books or something like that. And the interesting thing was, I ended up developing this really deep network in tech in California, on the West Coast or in New York, in Boston. At the time, my network in Atlanta was like nil. Like I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know anybody at the Tech Village was relatively new. I didn't know anyone at ATV. I didn't know anyone downtown. I just didn't really know anyone. And years later, like when we both know Ali Merritt from the Atlanta Tech Village, and she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we should work on this TechStars project together." This was like during COVID. She's like, "Oh, you have a huge network like at TechCrunch and like journalists and I was like, yeah, doesn't everyone here like I'm coming up on at the caboose at the back of the train?" And she's like, "No, like the thing about Atlanta is, and I want us, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because we're kind of inward looking, or we had been at the time, right? And so it was a little bit harder for the Atlanta tech community, the Atlanta startup and entrepreneurship communities to like really develop relationships with people outside the city. For whatever reason, I'm not gonna kind of I could sit and wonder about why, but I think it's changing a lot, which is really wonderful. But it did make relationship building here in the city crucial, absolutely crucial to being involved in these collaborations. And I will say this, like when I started developing, like I started from ground zero here. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't go to Georgia Tech. I didn't do any of the there's a lot of great cohorts now. I didn't wasn't part of any of those, um, and so I had to really start from scratch. And what I want people to understand about building networks is this stuff. This is a war of attrition. It is a war between you and your impatience, and I desperately want people to understand that because it's taken a year or a year and a half, I mean, post COVID, now being able to go to events and do events and things like that. Like a year and a half of 2 years maybe of creating value, consistently showing up, especially showing up when it's not about you, it's not your event or your demo day or your company. And now I'm not, I don't feel any shame saying like I walk into certain rooms and I have access to certain rooms with significant power players, and you're one of them because we all know each other, right? And because we all have a recognition of like we want to create value for the Atlanta community and see things grow here and create access for a lot of other people. But you kind of it's like a put up or shut up. You have to do the work and be patient enough to develop those relationships and those dialogues, and that's how you gain access. And it will take 12, 18 months, 36 months, and that's okay. The people who quit and say, oh, it's not working after 3 months, they're the people who frankly have a harder time getting in the door. I'm not gonna say they don't get in the door, but it's harder.
I think you're spot on though of that, like that showing up and just building those relationships and being in the room. But you get to a certain point then when you need like, with our last event and, Emory hosted us, and it's not the easiest place to get at 5:30 in the afternoon. We've got turmoil on Emory's campus, so that's adding into like promotion and do we have to switch venues and like. And when push came to shove, though, like it was like Ron Burgundy assembling his news team. I just like blew into a conch shell, and my whole network showed up, and then it became this amazing event because the people in the room were all like everybody that, and but it was weird because it was cross sections that didn't all know each other. So like you saw this incredible like energy of connection happen in the room. But yeah, it was the same thing where I was able to almost call in favors with friends where I'm like, I've been to like every one of your events. I need a little support over here.
Well, the cross section thing is so critical because we are now where I think things were. We are now with networking where I think things were with social media management 10 years ago. And what I mean by that is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was coming out of college, the concept of being a social media manager was a really relatively new concept, at least in the professional circles I was in. It was like, oh, someone's going to pay you to sit on Twitter and do their LinkedIn all day. Like it was just a new concept that hadn't really hadn't really gained steam really in the mainstream yet. And now it's a it's a it's normal, right? There are people we know, like I know people who run social media management companies and like, or, startups, and like that's what they do. And I think where networking is now is kind of that beginning upward slope of, oh, this is different than, you know, the sales and marketing, which is also crucial. It's not sales and marketing or networking. It's sales and marketing and networking. And what I really want people to understand, especially people, because I've had conversations like with founders who will say like, oh, we've raised, I don't know, 500K or $1 million like in our funding round. Like we know how to network. No, you know how to fundraise, which is unbelievably important and a massively critical skill. But it is a subset of networking because it's like now you've closed your round. And then what happens so often, and I want founders to get away from this, is they go heads down for like 8 months, 10 months, and I don't hear from you, right? Or you're not out in the community, you're not showing up, you're not being present because you're working on your product. I'm not criticizing the work on the product, but I am saying like you do need to continue to be in the dialogue of the conversation, showing up in the community when you're not pitching, when it's not a demo day. And so, when founders raise, let's say $1 million in funding, okay, where does that money often go? Like, sales and marketing, consulting, or advertising, or hiring new talent, or maybe hardware if you need new hardware. Like all of those things are important, but I also want like companies to understand like you should be investing in networking skill sets, relationship building skill sets, and relationship maintenance skill sets, understanding how to maintain long-term relationships over time so that the people can do exactly what you described, right? So that they can say like they can reach out into their network and say, hey, can you help me with this? Or hey, can you help me with understand how to approach this person correctly, not just like, hey, I want access, or hey, I need money. It becomes a more nuanced, hey, I'd love to talk to this person, but obviously I want to create value for them too. So what is the best way to approach them that satisfies those goals? Right? These are very nuanced things, and I fundamentally believe to my core that like large companies, whether your company is like 4 employees or 400 employees, like you need to know how to do this, because as you scale a company, founders know this, as you scale a company, your time to do one-to-one conversations goes down no matter how gregarious you are. So what oftentimes happens is it gets offloaded to the sales and marketing team. Like that's a problem. Those people are already performing an important job. But B, what's going on is that they may not be the right people to have certain conversations. The right people to attract high-end graphics talent are your graphics people. The right people to attract high-end technical talent are your tech people who speak that language, who can express that passion to, people who may be in the market for a new position. It's all connected to understanding how to get really great people in the door, how to identify new customer demographics, new collaborative or partnership opportunities. This is all networking. It's not just, hey, we have a funding round and we need money.
Yep. It's well, you have to almost look at it like a sales pipeline. Like you get a couple sales, you get busy, and then and it's the same way with networking. You go heads down on the project, and then it's like you wake up 8 months and your relational capital is at zero, and you're like you have to rebuild. And it's like just to maintain. It's easier to maintain than it is to go rebuild every single time. Same thing with the sales pipeline. Like yes, we got busy, we closed a bunch of deals, great, but I have to keep farming, hunting a little bit. And nurture those relationships. So I know we're running out of time because you and I are men of many words, but I want to unpack. I want to go like backtrack and unpack one more thing because we talked about it in kind of the planning call, and I think it's important. I'm trying to think of the way to word this of how do you balance if you're somebody new going out into this world, like we were joking about our red jackets and our orange sunglasses and man, I'll tell you, it's still sometimes, and even the LinkedIn game, like putting yourself out there. First of all, imposter syndrome never dies. There's still rooms.
No, it never
There's
ever
people
goes
I
away.
talk to.
Never
The thing
ever.
that gets me through it is knowing when I talk to somebody who I have like great admiration for, I realize as I laud them with praise that they're like, the fuck, what, me? And then they were like lauding me with praise, and I'm like, they think that of me, and so I realized like it's a two-way street. They're also feeling imposter, like, why? No, I'm just doing my thing, man. So anyway, so like there's imposter syndrome, but then I think there's also a little bit of like battling that and then like almost some narcissism of having to like self promote yourself and like you can feel like everybody's got that friend where they feel like their best friend from high like I have that best friend who's always like, oh, I can't with you on LinkedIn, and I'm like, man, it's part of the gig, it's part of what I'm doing. How do you balance all that? Like how do you balance the imposter syndrome, the need to like self promote and be like, yo, I'm Adam, the guy with the orange sunglasses, like how do you, I don't know, how do you, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting to kind of get out there and put themselves out there a little bit to get past the uncomfortability?
I mean, I would say this. Look, you're right. The imposter syndrome never goes away. I still wake up certain days, if I'm having an off day, having a hard week, and I'm like, what am I doing? Am I moving forward? Like, as any entrepreneur knows, like, you're gonna have days where you are scraping, and you're like, how do I pay this bill? How do I pay that bill? Then you're gonna have weeks that are really, really good. It's like hit after hit every day in a positive manner. But what I would say is you start to see your influence grow. I mean, I don't want to use the word influencer because that's such a loaded term now. But like, I woke up one day, and the best way I can describe it for founders is this. I came into tech knowing absolutely nobody, right? We talked about the music thing, but before that, like I studied history and art. Like, okay, I wasn't studying tech programming or anything that was entrepreneurship related. And used to stress a lot, like how do I get access to person A, B, C, D, whatever, or organizations, whatever. Now I don't lose any sleep over getting access to a certain person or a certain organization, um, because I know how to approach those people or organizations that I want to talk to and how to create those long-term paths to that dialogue. And what I would say is like you one day you realize that if you have been creating value and going out and being present in the conversation, you realize, oh, I am one of those people. I was at one of Joey Womack's Goody Nation events. This was maybe like last year, I think. And like I realized I walked into the room and like I know a lot of people. There are a whole lot of people who are tapping me on the shoulder who are like, "Oh, hey, it's good to see you. Oh, hey, we should do a call or we should do a catch up or this or that." And like you just realize that you've built enough value in the community, you've built enough relationship, capital, that you don't feel as alone. You don't feel as much of an imposter as you did before, because there are people who really do want to see you succeed. They really do want to see, how can they help you. And so for people who are kind of new to it, I would say that it is going to be hard. Like, this stuff isn't easy, and no one thing is going to make you feel like you're done. Like, I went viral. That was great for like a couple of weeks, and it was a good ego boost. And like, that wasn't like, oh, that, was the answer. I'm sure people who've raised money have had down rounds where they're like, what do I do now? Like, just because you had a successful round doesn't mean the next round will be more successful. So I think part of it is disengaging from what I call a milestone mentality of, oh, I will be successful when this, right? And in entrepreneurship, it's like funding or acquisition. In more corporate America, it's like get the job or get the promotion or get the project. Disengaging from that milestone mentality, which we've basically all been conditioned to focus on, and adopt a habit mentality, which is, I'm going to go out and just consistently try to be in the conversation, consistently try to create value, share content, give proper credit, introduce people when it makes sense, support people in the community. When you do that, like, I have a whole week or 2 weeks where like I'm basically quiet because I'm dealing with personal things. But the habit is there, and when you adopt that habit, that's how you win that war of attrition with the impatience. That's how you create that, because then you see it start to build methodically over time. Um, that's what I would tell someone kind of new. Like, this will take time. The people who say, oh, it doesn't work, are the people who want it to happen quickly and usually give up.
Yeah. I think you're right, though. The imposter syndrome never goes away, and you have to have just a little bit, the right amount of narcissism to bet on yourself and get through the roller coaster, the valleys of the roller coaster, because the peaks are easy. It's the it's the valleys that are difficult to traverse. We're way over on time, but I want to say thank you for coming on. We could go on for another hour, and I appreciate you making the time to share some wisdom with more than just me and get it out there to the world. And I can't say it enough, but thank you for
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll get links to all Adam's stuff. Will be in the show notes, so we'll have his everything from LinkedIn to what do we X? I don't know. I'm guessing you're probably on the.
I don't even know.
I don't know what to call it anymore.
I don't know. All the social stuff.
All the socials, even his MySpace.
Oh my God.
So awesome. Adam, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.